So the first thing that I went over is that you probably want to have an endpoint where you can call the endpoint wherever you want. It's an express endpoint. And right now we're returning a value that's stored in my local NED. So what we want to expose in that endpoint is a CID. So that way another computer can go to this CID, they can take it and they can ping IPFS, the file system, the decentralized file system, and it can collect that data. So how do we do that? Well, here's an example submission object. So what we did is we're fetching, I'll show the submission object looks something like this. It's just a JSON object. It can look however you want. Mine is a game object that contains hash signed player IDs, and then the move they made. It can certainly contain more, whatever you'd like. I suggest it contains more metadata too. You probably don't want it to be this bare bones. You'll have a function that can fetch that data, and then we'll just call that. So we'll say our value is fetching the JSON data from our game output, and then we're going to store to our local NEDB in this case the value. But something that I'd recommend is actually using the Koii Storage SDK. And I mean, while I'm here, I might as well pull up the docs. So if you go docs.koii .network, sorry, go to Koii Storage SDK. It's called the Koii IPFS Storage SDK. I will drop it in the chat right here. That will give you the uploading a file. So you'll make a client and get submitter account. I would suggest going to that doc page, actually looking at how to do it. It's about 15 lines, 10 to 15 lines. Nothing crazy, but it's just maybe a bit more than the quick demo I want to give. So just in concept, you have a Koii Storage SDK, which is going to connect you to the IPFS. You're just going to want to upload your CID, or no, you're going to want to upload your value. Remember that the value is your game output or your output object, whatever it is. Then you're just going to want to make sure that we're also storing it to our NEDB. We want to upload it to the IPFS and store it to the NEDB. Once it's in your NEDB, let's say that you actually called it value, right back at your index, we're going to be looking for value of CID. So you want to make sure you hook that up. And so when we're auditing, just an example, will be, so the first thing you'll do is you'll summon the Koii storage, well, this actually should come next, my bad. Here's an example, and again, you can audit any way you want, but what I would do here is, so I would call the namespace wrapper, and I'd get the task distribution. So this is the distribution list that exists. The first distribution list will have nothing on it. So typically how I handle this is I might actually say within the task distribution info, like if task round equals, or even let's say it's if you're less than 3, like don't even do anything, just return or just return null. So that way, in the first 3 rounds, you can basically generate these distribution lists. And then I also wouldn't give any bounties in the first 3 rounds too. And that's basically just establishing the task. It's pretty standard in Koii to do something like this. Some people will reward this period. It's entirely up to you. Once you have that, let's say that we're beyond round 3, we're in round 4 or 5, we have a good distribution list. Then we're going to query that distribution list for all the IP addresses. Then we're going to take those IP addresses. We're going to just randomly pick 3 is my suggestion from the list. if there's less than 3 on the list, you can have some extra logic to handle that, but most of the time there's a lot of nodes on the list. So you're just going to randomly select one, or 3, and what you'll do is you will query that endpoint we exposed, where you're going to get their CIDs, and then you're going to fetch their 3 CIDs from the Koii Storage SDK, and you're going to check that. Oh, and you'll also need the local. Oh no, you're not auditing yourself. You're auditing someone else. Right? Yeah. No, it's fine. So basically, you just want to make sure that these 3 that you fetch, for example, are the same. It's you know, if you're looking at other 3, or if you want, you could have something less random. You could say, where am I on the distribution list? Like, let's pick me. Let's say I'm position 4. So I'll be looking at 5. Position 5 will always be looking at 6. 6 will always be looking at 7. And then you only have to capture their CID and another random CID and just compare those two. Yeah, I hope you can just kind of see that it really is up to how the logic needs to handle auditing. Some people want something a bit more random. You know, if I just audit and I say, let's pick 3 random people, and if those random submissions look good, and they look, and my submission compares to theirs or something like that, like that's good for me. Some people have zero knowledge proof of things going on, so they're actually just checking some keys that are signed, some hashes, sorry, and you know, they're saying, okay, this hash passes, and so that's great, like that's good. I don't really know if the data in it is what I want, but because it's a zero knowledge system, I'm not going to expose the data in transit like this, and so it's okay. Like I'm willing to take the hit if there's some bad data or something. It really does depend on you, but the easiest way, for sure, is to get the task distribution info and look at something else. Just want to make sure that. And it's the Twitter task stuff. Yeah, it's just beautiful where all of our functions are in. I believe. Yeah, here's some nice. Here's some nice code, like getting around CID, right? You're getting a submission CID from the adapter. That's really nice. This is something we should absolutely use. Because you can look at round, you can have one CID for a round, based off round ID, right? You can generate the CID based off a round ID every time, and that way you have something very consistent to work with. So that's really nice. Get JSON of CID is basically just, you know, CID and converting from the JSON data structure. We have a validate here where we say let the data await that, right? And then we're setting the ID. And then we're doing a comparison right here. And we're looking for duplicates because we don't want duplicate IDs, especially when we're looking at tweets. Like if you are one node and you just keep on polling the same tweet, yeah, you can have a million tweets if it's the same tweet. So you want to make sure it's not the same. So the validate function you can see is actually pretty long. But those are, I believe these are like utility functions. So something about this task is that there's a task node that's doing some coordination here with this node, which is why it doesn't necessarily look like our traditional templates. But yeah, still some great learning there. I would suggest, before diving too deeply into this and into what's going on in the Twitter task JS and the validate method in particular, you might want to like look at the examples I gave in the VS Code stage. Just because they're a bit more tractable, a bit easier. They're a little less robust for sure, and they're probably not suited to your use case. But the smaller examples just might be easier to wrap your head around. Cool. Yeah. Um, I'll leave the floor open again. If anybody wants to do some more learning, you want to explore anything else, you have about 15 minutes here. But otherwise, thank you so much for showing up. I know today's webinar was a bit hectic, a bit sporadic, and we only recorded but hopefully we went over all of the core stuff, all of what's really important, just to get you started, just to give you an idea about what a submission looks like, what an audit looks like, get your feet wet with something like that. Definitely watch the video Ascent. We'll make sure that it's also in Discord. And yeah, we'll just stick around for a few minutes to see if you guys have any questions or anything. I know I talked fast too, and I might have missed if someone raised their hand. So sorry about that. So yeah, just let me know if there's anything else. But otherwise, have an amazing day, guys, and thank you so much for showing up.